Did Mike Elko just hand Cam Coleman to Hugh Freeze?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. And thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're talking recruiting with Locked On Recruiting Insider and Auburn Daily Insider, Brian Smith. And of course, our recruiting coverage is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Brian, you were at the Iron Bowl. You covered the Iron Bowl, spoke to a lot of recruits. We'll touch on that. We'll also talk about Auburn's newest commit, a 2025 kid, very, very large human being, can move very well for his size and his age. We'll talk about all that in a second. But yesterday, reports come out of Aggie land, come out of College Station, saying that Mike Elko, the new Texas A&M head coach, is not going to retain wide receivers coach Damian Craig. And this was the main point of contact between Texas A&M and Cam Coleman, the Central Phoenix City star receiver who was at the Iron Bowl this past weekend. And all these rumors, Brian, are continuing to come out about how he is planning to flip from Texas A&M to Auburn. And Damian Craig was kind of the last string that we all kind of assumed was holding him there. Did Mike Elko hand Cam Coleman Hugh Freeze by making this decision?
Unless there's something I don't know about, it sure seems that way. Why would he go play for a defensive-minded coach? It's a school he'd been trending away from. It's further away from home. That's his receiver coach. It's his contact. These are all negatives for the Aggies. So, again, I certainly don't have all the data, but the data I have leans towards the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I'll take it. And look, every recruit that was at the Iron Bowl talked about how electric the environment was and how a lot of these guys, rightfully so from their perspective, talking about the future. A lot of these guys sending messages saying, get ready, to Auburn fans. Their, big things are coming from their perspective, which is what you want, right? You want to be excited about going to play for your future school. And that's what this group is. You spoke to Cam Coleman briefly at the Iron Bowl on Saturday. One, what stood out to you? And two, anything of substance from him that you were able to kind of pull out?
Number one, he's still as calm and relaxed as the first time I got to know him earlier this year. And two, I just said, look, I'm not going to interview you to the fullest extent, but I do want to know one thing. I said, when will it be the drop dead date that you're down to just one school? There's no more back and forth. And he looked at me point blank and said December 20th, which is National Signing Day. Yeah. He's not going to rush it. That's basically what he's saying, which I'm cool with. And he was just honest about it. And he didn't hesitate. So we didn't get into the Auburn A&M discussion or Florida State or any of that. I left him alone on that. But look, man, he's being hammered from every direction because he's one of the few kids left in the top 100 that's not definitively going to a certain school. So he had a great time, though, and he was very active with all the kids. I was right under the goalpost, right by the recruits, and he was very active and having a great time. So I kind of like Auburn's chances.
I do too, man. I do too. And the more stuff that comes out and the way Texas A&M handled all of this, I think it's great. I think it's great for Auburn to eventually end up with Cam Coleman in this class. Something you said to me just when we were chatting on the phone sometime between now and when the Iron Bowl was done, you talked about how big all of these receivers that you talk to are. And that's not something you can necessarily say about pass receiving classes or pass receiving groups for the Auburn offense over the last decade or so.
When I was out on the field before the game, Auburn's pretty lax about letting us kind of just walk around and just see things. I was walking by a few of the kids and I knew who they were. And there was one kid I wasn't sure just based on the face. And I figured out who it was a little later. I'm like, oh, that's Perry. He looked like a linebacker. Perry looked like a linebacker, like literally.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, holy cow. He's a grown man. He's got to be over 200 pounds. And there's no bad weight. And then, I mean, Cam is, it's an NFL player in waiting. He's just long and lanky. he's the kind of guy you're looking for. So anyway, I looked at a few of the other kids and like Spencer Dowling, the big kid from Eagles Landing Christian. I feel really good about where Auburn stands. He's massive. I mean, everybody they had there looked the part. And even, I mean, this is kind of weird. The kid that honestly looked just about the best of anybody there is a certain quarterback from the state of Arkansas. Like he looks like just a pure athlete. If you didn't know that he was a quarterback, you'd say, hey, maybe he's a big receiver, a flex tight end, whatever. He's just a good looking athlete. Like Auburn is upgrading physically across the board. Receiver thing is freaky, but I mean, across the board, it's really good.
You've been covering recruiting for a long time, Brian. Walker White rolling up to the Iron Bowl with a hoodie where on the back of it was the names of all the guys on Auburn's wish list. Where does that rank as far as, okay, this is pretty awesome sales pitch from a guy in the class, not a coach, but a guy in the class?
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody match that.
It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool move.
I don't know if Auburn told him to do it or if his mom came up with it. I don't care. The fact that he rocked it.
Sure.
You know, I was around him, but he was so active talking to kids. I never approached him. Like that guy, if he ever wants to go into like sales of any type, if you're looking to hire, there's your guy. Everybody likes him. Like everybody likes him. You and like the staff. He's just very friendly and open. Everybody liked him. And I'm like, okay, this is a good sign. You don't have to have your quarterback as the leader of a class, but it does help a bit.
All right, so we're in agreement that it does feel like Mike Elko is handing Cam Coleman to Hugh Freeze with this decision with Damian Craig. So you're buying that Auburn finishes with 4 receivers in this class. So that'd be Malcolm Simmons and Bryce Kane, the 2 we haven't mentioned, and Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman. I know Auburn fans really want Ryan Williams. I'm just not there. I am there with Cam Coleman. I'm not there with Ryan Williams. But those 4 guys in the class, I mean, that's got to give Auburn one of the best receiver classes in college football.
It would. And I spoke with Ryan for a bit too. I think Auburn's much higher up on the list than I originally thought.
Okay.
But he doesn't know where he's going. Like I know him a little bit from this past summer, and he's a great guy. He doesn't even know if he's enrolling early yet. And I said, bro, it's a couple of weeks away. You kind of have to figure this out here because you got to change your classes if you're going to enroll early a year. So
do you believe that he really doesn't know, or do you think that's just
him
playing the game?
No, we went into it like he told me like I got to take certain like it's a big deal. It's a big commitment, regardless if it's Bama or Auburn. You have to get your credits, and he's taking extra classes when you're a kid that's really only thinking about football is probably not high on his list. I get it, but there is no shortcut here. So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, no question. All right, you talked to pretty much all of Auburn's class at the Iron Bowl, and so we'll touch on some of those other guys. I know you had a good conversation with DeAndre Carter as well, Auburn's offensive lineman in this class. We'll continue all that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. It's the best way to play daily fantasy sports. If you're like me and every fantasy football team I touch this year stinks, I'm mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in all of my leagues. I'm normally very good at fantasy, not this year. Prize Picks gives you new life. So I get to enjoy NFL days, game days again. So thank you to Prize Picks. But Prize Picks, all it is it's you against the numbers. You pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and hopefully you watch the winnings roll in. So if you think a receiver is going to have a big day, you can add them on Prize Picks. If you think a running back's going to get shut down, you can add them on Prize Picks and take the less than. It's so much fun. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Brian, let's talk about some of these other guys that you spoke to at Jordan-Hare Stadium for Iron Bowl Saturday. So let's start with DeAndre Carter. He is a very large human. You sent me a few pictures of him and you put some stuff up on the website at auburndaily.com. But what stands out to you about this kid from the other side of the country.
Well, it's ironic that you said that because I said, DeAndre, I got to ask. I said, why does a kid from LA go to Auburn? Because those are two worlds that aren't even remotely alike. He said, I'm not going to lie. When I took the visit, I didn't think I'd like it near as much as I did. He was just honest.
Sure.
And he said, it blew me away. And he says, I just love everything here, the people and how everybody is and how much attention to detail with the football program and everything.
Yeah.
He wanted to kind of like restart. Like he wanted to be a part of something that he could build. Obviously, as you and I talk frequently, the Tigers need offensive linemen. He fits that bill in many ways. And his chest is the size of about 3 human beings. So you put all that together, he's got a chance to play. Like he is humongous, just like out. He's better proportioned than I thought he would be. And his chest is so big, it's ridiculous. But great kid. He's really close with Walker. I mean, he's about as dialed in as it's going to get. So great kid, man.
Who else stood out? I know DeMarcus Riddick is a guy that impresses you every time a highlight pops up on your timeline or you get a chance to see him in person. Let's move to him next.
Have you ever seen the guy in one of these really bad movies, like the bouncer at the bar that just comes walking out that's imposing? Riddick is kind of like that. No waist, really broad shoulders, and angry. That's what he looks like. He's the guy I want playing linebacker for me.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him. I just took a picture and just kind of got away. I was afraid of him. But
who else, Brian, who else did you talk to on Saturday?
Oh, man. Well, Dowland a little bit. Super kid.
Okay.
He's 290 right now. Very happy with where he's at. He said he can't wait to get into Auburn's strength and conditioning program.
He's got a minute. He's got a minute. But
yeah,
glad he's bought in.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's an Auburn fit. KJ Lacey, don't discount Auburn in that race. He's a 2025 quarterback, technically committed to Texas. He is Ryan Williams' teammate. They are very tight.
Okay.
I asked him I've known him for a couple of years. I asked him point blank about it. I said, are you going to Texas? What's going on? And he said, we're still trying to figure it out or whatever. I don't really consider it a strong commitment. It's just my opinion.
Got it.
But, he is what he is. He was having a great time and he was mingling with all the recruits. Looking at the list, like, guys, there's so many kids. The kid from Eagles Landing Christian, forget his Favor Edwin. Yeah. If they don't get him, I will be shocked.
Okay.
I will be shocked. I asked him about his visit situation and I had no idea. I hadn't looked it up. And he said he had like 3 visits kind of lined up for December. And then he broke into another part. He goes, it takes so much time to take these visits. I'm like, right? Because they hoard you around. You don't get any free time.
Right.
I think it's Clemson, Florida, Bama, or whatever. But like, I don't know if he's going to take any of them. Like, he's kind of over it. And he just really likes Auburn. Maybe he takes one. But I think the Tigers are the most likely destination. He was hanging around all the offensive players.
How did he look to you? How did he look to you, Favor Edwin? How did he look physically to you, Brian?
Like an SEC offensive tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very long. He's 6'6" at least. He's humongous. And he's not fat. Very astute kid, looking for a place that feels comfortable. And he was with the recruits. You can tell when a kid really isn't that interested, they kind of move off to side. He was in the middle of the fray the entire time.
That's good.
So, very good. And he's one of my favorite kids I've met this year. He's about as humble as it can be. So
I love that. Any other conversations you had from Saturday before we look ahead to the 2025 class?
Jalen Crawford, the corner from Parkview High School, big time program in Atlanta.
I'm really high on him, Brian.
You and me both.
Yeah.
That's a kid that likes to study stuff and he knows who everybody is. He's a little different kind of kid. He's very astute on that as well. Auburn will end up playing him early. I'm very confident.
Yeah. There's a lot of candidates for early potential starters on the defensive side of the ball for sure. Okay. Let's talk about Kalen Edwards. He committed earlier this week. He is the latest commit at the time of us recording this, a 2025 defensive lineman. So Auburn now has 3 4-star defensive linemen in the 2025 class, which you love to see it. Sounds like Tennessee was certainly a factor in Memphis, according to his On3 page. But from Dyersburg, Tennessee, you wrote about this at auburndaily.com, Brian, and I've watched a little bit of his tape. The thing is, he's huge, and he moves really, really well. Those two things go together. And that's why he has a 4-star, a 4-star at such a young age.
It was interesting watching his film because when I first saw him walk up to the line, I'm like, okay, this is just going to be a plugger. But he can bend, make contact, shed, and like run down the line of scrimmage and chase down running backs. He's at least 320. I've seen him listed a different way. He's at least 320. Kids that size don't move like that very often, especially when they're only a junior in high school. So when I saw that, I'm like, and he's just murdering kids, around his local area. I feel sorry for the parents there, but at the same time, it's just the way it is. Like he's just too strong and he overwhelms them. He doesn't have a lot of technique yet. Once he gets to Auburn, he gets coached up because of his athleticism. I think he can become a pass rusher too. Right now, he's more of a run stuffer, just disrupting everything. You got to double him, and he's probably an even better offensive lineman because I don't know. He just gets to maul people. He doesn't have to look for anything. He just kills what's in front of him. But
yeah,
that kind of athleticism at 320, brother, you can never have enough of them in the Southeastern Conference.
So we've joked about this before, Brian, but we're in a situation just from an Auburn perspective that Auburn's already got 7 commitments in the 2025 class. That is very unusual. I think since I've covered the team, this is the quickest and most ahead of schedule they've been on the recruiting trail since I've been covering the team. And so, I mean, you look at it with a Malik Autry, who I believe was there Saturday, and a Jacaleb Falk and a Jordan Crawford and a Kalen Edwards. I mean, there's so much to like about what they're assembling on this defensive front. It's a ways out. It's the 2025 class, so we've got some time, but does this kind of change your approach if you're a coaching staff now? It's like, okay, we've got our base, like we've got our core group of guys. Does it allow you to be more aggressive, or do you just kind of stay true and just over the course of this next year and a half, everything's going to even out?
I don't think there's any evening out. I think they're actually ascending. Okay. It just happens that, and this goes in cycles. The area that Auburn's in is always rich with D-line talent, but it's really good with bigger guys. They got 3 D tackles that can play for any school in the country already committed. That's insane.
Right.
It could end up being the number 1 D tackle class in the country for next year's overall haul. And now they can also sell that to like corners, to safeties, to linebackers. Hey, these guys are going to make it easier for you. So yeah, I'm not real worried about Auburn in that regard, but that does give them one advantage. Because you're 7 down, you don't have as many kids that you're openly recruiting.
Sure.
That makes a big difference. And you always want to get a quarterback as soon as you can and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know where they're at with that. But other than that, like this class is off to such a good start. It would be very disappointing if it didn't finish in the top 10 at the very least.
I'm with you. According to 247 right now, it's 5th. It's 5th in all of football for a 2025 class. Brian, let me ask you this. So according to 247, there are 4 4-stars committed already. Malik Autry, Kendarius Riddick, Jacaleb Falk, and Jordan Crawford. Of those, could any of them be a candidate for getting a 5th star down the road?
Oh, wow. That's hard. The Autry kid, that's a possibility because you can't teach his length. Like I met him.
He's so big.
He's imposing. Like I think I sent you a photo of him. He's 280-ish and he looks lean.
Yeah, I've watched him play a few times. Just because he goes to school like right 10 minutes from where I live. Right. Yeah, he's huge. He's exactly what you want, like physically.
And it's just odd. Like, I don't think he understands how good he is yet or what he can be.
Right.
He's not a kid that, like some guys, they're really good early, but they're done growing.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't even filled out. Like his width, his chest and all that. He's going to be 305 and still be able to play 3 tech or 5 tech. Like he's that rare guy that can play like in a three-man line. You can put him at the end.
Yeah.
He's really rare. So it just depends on if the light really goes on with his technique. He can play for anybody in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Malik's actually come on the show before. He's a friend of the program. I don't know why I didn't say that earlier, but yeah, big fan of Malik Autry. All right, let's talk about what could be next for Auburn on the recruiting front in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. You've got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They've got the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86%, I said that really weird, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidates within 24 hours. That's pretty quick. That's pretty fast. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Final few minutes here with Brian Smith, Locked On Recruiting Insider, also a writer over at auburndaily.com. So let's just kind of play a game where we predict the future here. Do you think Auburn gets a commit before signing day, or do they just flip a few guys or a few guys pop on signing day next month?
I would guess it's both. I think that signing day is kind of the given. I think Faber Edwin's probably about the most likely. Again, my vibe with him, and I didn't even ask, he offered. He's kind of over the whole visit thing and all that. He's a pretty humble kid. Some guys, they love all the attention. He'd rather be underneath the waves, if you would. So I expect him to pop sooner than later.
Which is totally what you want for an offensive lineman, right? Like the mentality of it. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah. When offensive linemen like Ferraris, I'm concerned. So, it's just, it's not the way, they don't fit in them. But anyway, it's just one of those things where he's probably about done. He might take a visit. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Right. As far as flips, obviously we got Cam Coleman. They're trying to get Ryan Williams. They're trying to get other kids. All of that is just self-explanatory. You take them whenever they decide to come, end of story. So I don't know how many other kids they're trying to get, but here's something to think about. This happens every year. With all the craziness that goes on with the coaching carousel, and I've got an entire page of notes just on A&M for different teams because they recruit nationally, not just Coleman. A bunch of different teams are really interested that they just hired a defensive coach like we talked about with Cam. Draylon Miller may end up at LSU, and this guy it's all over the place. And that's applied to a lot of schools. Florida just fired some coaches. There are going to be guys that Auburn and other schools didn't have on their board that may end up on their board now and take visits. It's just a matter of who it is. Don't be surprised if Auburn is one of those schools.
Yeah. What's your feeling on KJ Bolden, who obviously picked FSU over Auburn and a few other schools? Everybody who talks to him always feels good about where he's going, but he picked FSU. Where are you in reading this kid, if it's at all possible to read him?
Well, he wasn't at the Iron Bowl unless I missed it. I don't think he was there.
I don't think he was either. I'm not positive on that, but I don't think he was either.
I would have ran into him, and I know him. So I don't like that sign for Auburn, but that doesn't mean he doesn't get back to Auburn because he lives in Atlanta. It's not like he's that far away, so it's 2-3 hours away. I would expect that you got to go visit him next week. When the coaches can start making the in-home visits, I'm sure it's first week of December. That's got to be one of your first stops. You got to know if he's interested in coming back by. After that, anybody in that Atlanta area that, you might be able to flip, there's plenty. They'll probably make some efforts there.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, how can people check out everything that you've got going on right now?
Auburn Daily is the most entertaining. I got the update on the Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams situation. Got the whole rundown on the Auburn kids, a few other guys we didn't mention that escaped me. But, man, it's a lot of fun. FB Scout _Florida on Twitter. A little bit of everything. Working on a lot of transfer quarterback stuff right now because Lord only knows. Auburn may be in that too. Who knows? I mean,
I think they will. I think they will add a quarterback via the portal. So we will see. Yeah, check out all of Brian's work. You can find my written work at auburndaily.com as well. And we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.